I want to start off today by watching a video with our boy Chamath. It kind of ties in what we talked about last class. Last class we kind of started small, and then we got really big picture, and then hopefully today we're going to tie it, kind of make it come full circle a little bit, because we also have other stuff to talk about, like what's in the textbook. But that's boring. So let's let Chamath take it away. Okay, one thing that he just talked about is Jeff Bezos with Amazon, and talking about how the faster a company climbs, the faster they fall. That's an argument he just made. So if it takes you 2 years to make it to the top, it's going to take 2 or 3 years for you to just collapse again. So he said one of the best things you can do is be like Jeff Bezos with Amazon and have slow, faithful gain over long periods of time. So that's kind of the context.
And the reason is because if I can do that for 50 years, that's $250 billion. It's some crazy number, right? It's just enormous. So it's like slow and steady against hard problems. Start by turning off your social apps and giving your brain a break. Because then you will at least be a little bit more motivated to not be motivated by what everybody else thinks of it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's hard. Think about how all this stuff plays together. How does trying to get, posting your waffles online relate to me starting a business and accumulating capital? This is wiring your brain for super fast feedback. It's the same brain you're using to build a company. Don't think they're not the same. Do you know what I'm saying? No? Yes? No? Yes! Yes, right? You have one brain. So you're training your brain here, whether you think it or not, whether you know it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not. Acknowledge that these things where you're spending hours a day are rewiring your psychology and physiology in a way that now you have to use to go and figure out how to be productive in the commercial world. So if you don't change this, you are going to get the same behaviors over here. Change this. There's a reason why Steve Jobs was like anti-social media. I'm telling you I'm not on these apps. I'm not him by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm proactively trying to rewire my brain chemistry to not be short-term focused. I'm telling you they're linked.
Chamath, thank you so much for...
Okay, so he's clearly passionate about this issue. If you have time to watch this whole video, I really encourage you to do it. He's very opinionated and very passionate, and he's really challenging in a lot of ways. So let me white color. I'm just going to do this. I don't want to turn off the projector, so let's just do this. Great, because it's even brighter than the whiteboard. So last Tuesday, we ended talking about what digital marketing is not. It is not manipulative, or rather, let's write the linchpin in red. Ethical digital marketing is not manipulative, it's not harmful, it's not exploiting or excluding, it's not promising what we cannot fulfill, and it's not calling wants needs. And one thing that I think is very interesting is Chamath is saying that here's us now, here's us down the road of time. He's saying that whatever is in this cloud of usage, what am I doing here? Should I just turn off the projector? Will that make it better? Because it's like thinking that I'm trying to interact with the board. I don't want that. Say what? No. So those things will determine who we become. In the words of Mrs. Marquis, my junior high principal, she would get on WJH-TV every morning. It was a school news program run by the forensics team, which I was on. Every day she would have Miss Marquis's words of wisdom, and she would always end it. 3 years straight, at least when I was there, she would say, the choices you make today shape your world tomorrow. Every day. So Chamath is arguing the same thing. When we see this is who we want to be, we have to keep in mind that who we become is directly affected by what we consume, by what we do with our time. So the issue, I think, is that I think it's easy for us to picture who we want to be. It's easy for me to say, let's take me for an example. I want to be a present husband. I want to be a present father. And I want to be a faithful employee that treats work as something that God gave, not a burden. Those are three things that I believe. So I want here to be a good dad, or present husband, present father, and a faithful employee. Faithful father and husband as well. So those are the ultimate desires. I'm going to put those here. So these are the ultimate desires that I have. But the thing is, something comes along that gets in the way of my ultimate desires. And those are things that promise, I'm going to do this because it's less happy for some reason. This is convenience. Convenience takes what we desire to be and it transforms us into something that we didn't picture ourselves becoming in the first place. And what I mean by this is I want to be present for Adeline. But the Royals are on. They're my favorite team. And I know that in the 8th inning, they have a runner on third with 2 outs. And I'm wondering if they're going to squeak it out before the top of the 9th. And that's when I find myself listening to the game instead of being with Adeline. I say I want to be an employee that uses my time well, but I also know that Oprah made a great speech at the Grammys or the Emmys the night before, and I think, I can watch this while I work. I say I want to be a faithful and present husband, and yet I convince myself that my freelance work is more important than Sarah is, because there's immediate return on investment. There's convenience. Bill George is an author, not the Bill George of JBU that the arena is named after. He's an author. I read a book of his. It's called Discover Your True North. And in it, he makes the argument, he says, we make decisions on convenience because not only are they more convenient, but there's an immediate return on our investment. What he means is this. I know that if I go home and I pick up the house and I clean the house, I will be done in 30 minutes, and I will look around and I will say, this house is spotless. I have taken something that was this, and I have made it something new. If I spend 30 minutes with Adeline, I will not see the return on that investment immediately. I just won't. Next time she sees me, she won't be like, thank you for spending 30 minutes with me. More realistically, she'll go, ah, which is appropriate for a 16-month-old. So it's easier for me to make decisions where I can see the return on investment. It's tangible. It's right now, as opposed to when you're looking back, when you're 50 or 60 or whatever, and you're saying, why didn't I go this way? Why did I waste my time with this crap? I don't think that when I die, I'm going to lay on my deathbed and I'm going to say, I wish I would have watched more Royals games. I don't think I'm going to say that. I don't think at my funeral people will say, you know, Justin was a good man, but he would have been great if he just would have had the next piece of technology to do a pretty cool project. And yet, because of convenience, I behave as if those things are true. Now, the reason that I'm saying all of this is because, let's write this up. And again, Chamath helped bring it to a business context. Because right now I'm just maybe a theology, maybe a psychology teacher. The lives we live, the lives we live are the stories we tell. The lives we live are the stories we tell. That's maybe the most important thing that I want you to think about when you leave class today. The lives we live are the stories we tell. What this means is, no matter how great our belief about something is, no matter how great our conviction is, if we don't live it, that's not what's going to be true about us. Robbie Castleman has a quote. She says, you know you believe by what you do. I believe that prayer is a way to directly communicate with God. How often do I pray? Well, my behavior would suggest that I don't truly believe that connection with God is something that's worth my time. I say I do. I absolutely say I do, and I will preach that till the day I die. And yet my behavior says something different. So here's what I'm saying. Now we're going to tie it back to last week. Last week we talked about we have these things that we say we need. So needs. We said things like happiness, purpose, community, fun, etc. We have needs, but they often get misinterpreted as wants. Or rather, we think wants are needs. So what this means is we have things that we believe to be true, and yet because of convenience, we act in other ways because we let the overwhelming majority of culture, of technology, of business tell us what it is that we need, right? We talked about this last time. We didn't know we needed Facebook until Facebook came out. We didn't know we needed Uber until Uber. We didn't know we needed Yelp. We didn't know we needed Walmart, etc. When things come into existence, we start evaluating, do we need this or not? So point one that I want to make today is decide, don't slide. What this means is, if there's an opportunity for something, for a service, for anything, I want you to make a decision on doing it, not sliding into it. There was a chapel speaker years ago that he had slidingversusdeciding.com. That was like his ministry. Meaning when something comes out, when there's a new TV show that comes out, when there's a new whatever that comes out, I can't tell the future, do I simply slide into it by saying, yeah, this sounds pretty fun? Or do I evaluate and say, here's what I've said matters to me in my life. Does this meet that goal? Because if it doesn't, maybe it's not the highest priority. And I don't want to sound super practical so that it's like no television, no sports, no fun ever. I'm not saying that at all. But like Andy Crouch in his book, Tech-Wise Family, I believe that we should put these things, these tertiary things, meaning these secondary things, in their proper place. So decide to do something because it is a need, or decide not to do something because, you know what, right now this is not what I need. Okay? So when we make decisions, we don't slide in, we don't look back 5 years and say, well, dang it, I don't know how I ended up here. I don't know why I have been dating this person for 3 years. I don't know why I have been watching this crap for 3 years. I don't know why, whatever. So that's one takeaway. I want you to seriously consider the things you do through what is needed in your life and what you believe to be needed for you, which is different for everyone, I realize. Don't slide into the wants unwillingly. So that's the first point. And the reason this is if we don't decide things, if we absorb passively we will become what we are against. So right now I say I'm against unethical uses of technology. I say that. I believe that. But because of convenience, I let technology start to take control of my life in little ways. And when I do that, that directly impacts how I view work, that directly impacts how I treat my coworkers, and that ultimately impacts the ads that I make, the stories that I tell, the work that I do completely. So here's the way of saying it. If we live lives of misplaced priorities, of taking what is given to us without critical thinking. If we call our wants needs and we call our needs wants, then we will tell these stories to our children, to our coworkers, and to our customers. These things will be evident in the ads we create, the videos we make, and the pictures we take. Does this make sense what I'm saying? I believe Chamath is absolutely right that if we try and separate our use of technology with how we want to use technology one day, we're going to be playing the victim card for the rest of our lives. And at some point, it's going to be too late. At some point, we're going to reach a point where we're saying, I am doing something and I am leading something the wrong way, and it's because I never chose to change it 20 years ago. And I'm not saying it's only about social media. These two classes is not supposed to be a damning discussion on social media or an anti-technology class whatsoever. I firmly believe that the world is a better place because of proper usage of technology. But I also believe that with great power, to quote Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, comes great responsibility. And if we don't use that responsibility, then we're going to find ourselves in a lot of trouble. So, there's a book by John Maxwell called There's No Such Thing as Business Ethics. And in this book, it's a pretty short read. He argues that business ethics is a myth. We shouldn't think about business ethics. He's a Christian, so he argues that the only thing that, oh my gosh, all right, I'm done with this. The only thing, how do I shut down? Get out of here. The only thing that matters is Christian ethics. Meaning when we say, well, what does ethical business look like here? He would argue, ethical business here looks like what ethical home life looks like what ethical relationships look like. It's not like we can leave our ethics over here and it's like, okay, now in the business context, how can we be ethical business people? He's saying that it's the same thing. So there's no such thing as business ethics, there's just ethics. I want to argue the exact same point, that there is no such thing as ethical digital marketing. There is only ethics. How we live our lives, not with digital marketing, directly affects how we live our lives with digital marketing. But because ethics is subjective, we have to have a plumb line, we have to have an anchor, we have to have something that tells us, all right, if there's not digital marketing ethics, if there's only ethics, what does that mean? And the answer, in an apophatic way, is ethical digital marketing is never contradictory to Scripture. Ethical digital marketing is never, ever, ever contradictory to Scripture. If there's ever a point when we are doing digital marketing in a way that is against the way that God teaches to live life as a whole, then it's wrong. And I don't know the total correct answer for all the solutions for this, because there's times where, well, it seems that Scripture says this, but other times it's this, and we lean into those issues when we cross them. Let's cross the bridge when we come to them, but let's not ignore such a black and white statement because of some of the grays of Scripture. What I mean by that is don't say, well, Scripture isn't always clear, so maybe I shouldn't think about this at all. I disagree. I think that when we come to that bridge, we should deal with it then. Ethical digital marketing is never contradictory to Scripture. So I do believe what Chamath has to say. Do you guys agree with him? I've kind of ranted. I think I ranted today, or rambled more than I did last week, or Tuesday. So would you agree with Chamath that the way we use our technology here will impact the way that we live our lives, both now and for a long time? Do you agree, or is there some pushback or some hesitation or some questions you guys have?
I think I agree. I just, extreme.
Mm-hmm.
You should stop using social media.
Right.
Which I think you kind of made that point of like, using social media isn't necessarily bad if we use it the right way.
Right.
Then it's fine. You'll end up getting the result that you want if you use it the way that you
Right.
want it for a long period of time.
My wife was not liking how much time she was spending on Instagram. The purpose for her of Instagram was she wanted her family and close friends and my family to see pictures and videos of Adeline and our family. But she didn't like that every time she got on Instagram, she was swallowed up by stuff she didn't really need to spend her time on. And so she found this app called Tiny Beans. It's an app that's specifically geared towards parents who want to share pictures and videos of their kid with family members. So when we made that first step in saying, we want to use Instagram less, would you guys mind downloading this Tiny Beans app? Everyone was on board. And so now Sarah has a way of sharing pictures and videos, which meets her goal of being connected, of including family, of making sure that we're all a part of this great joy that is raising a child and being married. But she was seeing that the other things that Instagram was telling her, hey, you should care more about this. You should care more about your appearance. You should care more about your recipes. You should care more about this. She said, no. My need says family and keeping people in touch. And right now, Instagram is not meeting that. So I'm going to find something else. And so by finding that, it's working out really well. And everyone loves the Tiny Beans app. It's great. And she's not really on Instagram that much anymore because she found that it just wasn't meeting the way that she wanted to live her life. What other thoughts do you guys have? Maybe about Chamath or this discussion as a whole, or if there's anything you thought about after class on Tuesday, or nothing.
I think that it's kind of like Christianity, like thinking towards the future, thinking of when we have families. I think it's like of utmost importance, like with our Christianity, that we know what we believe, why we believe it, and like we're able to defend that. And I think it's kind of the same thing with like our technology usage or our social media usage. Like, why are we on there? What is our purpose? And how do we defend that?
Yeah.
How do we, put that against Scripture and see how it lines up? I think that that's going to be huge because, our kids, even my younger siblings, are born into a world where all they know is technology.
Right.
And so it's going to be something that they will see from the very beginning of their life. And so I think that that's huge.
Right.
Because before we know it, we'll be married, have kids, or at least be around kids.
Yeah.
So,
I totally agree.
I know there's been a lot of push from developers or these people we've been watching saying that social media is bad, but it doesn't seem like that's the general consensus from the providers themselves. Do you think that we've kind of gone past going back to less social media? Do you think it's going to become worse and interactions are going to become something that's inefficient in the future?
That's a great
Not
question.
like all human interactions, but like
Right.
what we consider normal today.
That's a great question. Because I do think that sometimes when people damn social media, they do so in a way that at least to me, it seems that they've forgotten the recent past. You can see pictures of people in the 40s and 50s on buses, everyone reading a newspaper. And so when someone says, you kids, all you do is just sit on you don't even like have a conversation. It's like, well, there's pictures of your generation all reading and you're not engaging with people. So even though I do see there's a point, there also is some similarities of if the core issue is not engaging, that problem's been going on for a long time. So I guess one thing I'm saying there is this issue of cultural and societal impact of how we handle information and technology. That's not a new problem. It's a newer problem, I think. But I have hope for the way that technology leaders are using their companies for social good. I think Bill Gates is a great example of that. I think Mark Zuckerberg can be a good example of that. But I think that when decisions are being made solely based on shareholders' income and growth, at any point, I think we reach a problem. And when scale is the desire, I think we've gone wrong a little bit. And when Even though I have a lot of pushback with Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, I do know that his resolution, he makes public his New Year's resolutions every year. His resolution for 2018 is to make Facebook more about the relationships that you're in with people that you care about and less about advertising, less about pages, less about et cetera. So I do like that he's kind of saying, let's step back. Have we met our goals? How have we changed? How can we keep moving forward? Is that the answer to everything? I don't think so. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think it's the goal of technology companies, and I think it should be the goal to push society forward. I think that's a valuable thing. I think the world can be changed and has been changed for the better because of things like that. But if there aren't organizations and key leaders that are speaking out about the dangers of them, I don't think that they will change on themselves. I think there has to be something outside providing accountability. If there's a fire and you want to put it out, you can't put it out from inside the house. So I really like that the guy from Google has this nonprofit of time well spent. And I hope that people like Mark Zuckerberg will hire nonprofits to come in and talk about ethical use of technology. Long-winded answer. I do think that it is changing society. I do think it will continue to get worse, but I do think that if there are key figures that are helping guide technology companies, that I still think there's hope. I don't know if I answered your question.
No,
I probably didn't.
you didn't.
Other thoughts about this? Does it make sense? I feel like I've been kind of all over the place, which I think I have been. Are you seeing some similar or some consistent things to pull out, or do you feel like you're still kind of scatterbrained? Okay, a summary would simply be, if we passively let leaders of technology and business tell us what we need, and we don't think critically as we consume and participate with what they've given us, we will end up doing the same thing, telling people they need things they don't, manipulating people, and making the world a worser place.